Hey again guys, for this devlog I'll be going over the process for art and animation in Quill to shine some light over how I've been doing things for the past couple of months. Since this is still one of the early devlogs, we'll be looking back on the progress we've already made. Eventually we'll move on to devlogs that show current and future progress updates. All of the art and animation in Quill is hand painted and frame by frame. Due to the fact that I'm doing all of the game's art completely by myself, I had to come up with a process that was both efficient and still held a visually appealing result. For a while now I've been practicing my speed painting more than anything else, and so I think it's really helped me throughout all of this. Being a 2D artist, the art style of Quill was really the first thing that I could fully conceptualize in my head. I knew what kind of mood and atmosphere that I wanted, and through that it was fairly easy to create style guides and concepts that could really bring to life the ideas that I had. For animations, I first used Adobe Animate to create a sort of sketchy blockout animation. Usually this is one long animation that contains all of the different states that the character, creature or object will use. For example, an idle state, run, jump, attack, etc. This serves as both a visual aid for how the final animations will look and a guide for when I need to paint over them later. These animations are done by hand, frame by frame, to create a smooth and floaty look in all of them, which in my opinion makes them seem more magical. I lay down basic colors within Animate and export the frames as an image sequence. These frames are then stitched together and taken into Photoshop, where I can add detailing and a more painterly look to the characters and creatures of Quill. I found this process to be the most effective, as I can utilize all of Adobe Animate's animation tools to get a baseline sprite sheet in a very short amount of time, and Photoshop's painting tools to easily add texture and detail to make the sprites look much higher quality. This process is used and repeated for things like Quill itself, the book, the enemy creatures, and any animated objects or assets that I might use in the future. All of these creatures, books, and animated objects have an outline put in Photoshop to create contrast and separate themselves from the background and foreground elements. On to environment assets. For the environment, I create individual sprite sheets completely within Photoshop. Using screenshots, style sheets, and mood boards as reference, I can sketch and paint something like a tree in a very short amount of time. I then take these sprites into a program called Sprite Illuminator, which has been awesome to use so far. Within this program, I can manually paint in a normal map so that the interaction these objects have with light makes them pop in a slightly more interesting way. Another visual asset that I'm very happy with is the water. For this, I have to give credit to Hey Ludos, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as they made the 2D water kit on the asset store that I've taken and customized to fit the style of Quill. They have been super helpful during the entire process with any problems I had, and so if you ever need something similar, I highly recommend going and checking it out, and I'll leave a link in the description for anybody interested. Now for the ground and repetitive assets such as trees, I use a Unity package feature known as Sprite Shapes. These allow me to create shapes that will automatically place and adjust my sprites for things like the ground, trees, and anything else I might need. This massively speeds up my level creation process, as I don't need to create individual pieces for the ground and instead can use variations of ground sprites that I paint. Finally, particle effects. All of the particle effects are a mix of manual 2D frame by frame animation and static images, which are then given life through the Unity particle system. Any one spell or effect in the game has multiple elements that all come together to give it a more complete look. These individual elements are once again animated completely by hand, frame by frame in Adobe Animate. Most of these particle effects use individual shaders and materials to give them unique looks, such as the magic missiles trail effect you can see here, or the burning object particles here. Finally, the entire project is using the Unity Universal Render Pipeline, which gives me access to great 2D tools like 2D lighting, global volume effects such as bloom, hue shifts, and more. This really brings all the different assets together, allowing them to blend well into the world and connect with one another. So that's pretty much it for a general overview of everything. In the future I'd like to go into more detail with different devlogs, but for the time being, thank you guys for supporting, thank you for listening in, and look out for the next devlog. I'll be putting a link in the description to the Discord for anybody that wants to join and follow along. And yeah, once again, thank you guys for the support. Looking forward to doing more.